Good morning, everyone. So welcome to today's TAC meeting. We'll get started, bring the meeting to order. It's 9 o'clock. We're going to start with item 3.01, and Deepak, I'm going to ask him to introduce some new TAC members.
Talk about the minutes.
Is the other minutes? Okay, so since we had the last meeting, we want to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, and we were in person. Thank you. So we'll start again. And are there any public comments on today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we can ask if there's any conflicts. There's no voting.
No, there is no voting.
Yeah, so there shouldn't be any conflicts of interest declarations. So the item 2.01, if we can cover that administratively. The board meetings from the June 2nd.
Just go ahead, Gary.
Gary, do you have?
You don't have what?
Log in. He'll come over and help you. So the meeting from June 2nd, 2021 was here in person, and I covered the minutes, so I think the minutes looked good. Do we have any question about the minutes or any motions to approve them?
Motion.
Okay, minutes are approved. Thank you. So now I will ask Deepak to introduce the new TAC members so we know that who's here at the table and welcome them.
So good morning, everybody. I think we have two new members today. We have Ms. Kathy Miron from, I believe she works for ESILO. She's a Chief Executive Officer, and she's appointee of Alexander Ayla. And we have Philip Levine, who's Karen Burrell's appointee. Philip is president of South Florida Web Advisors, and is an accomplished web developer and technical engineer. So he'll understand all our IT woes very well. So thank you. So you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll wheel around and introduce ourselves. So Kathy, you go first.
Sure. So Kathy Myron, as Deepak said, I'm the CEO of eSilo. We are a small company that serves other small companies with backup and cybersecurity services. My background is I've spent almost 15 years at GE as well. So I've worked with small businesses, large multinationals, and as I was telling Natasha, a number of different areas in operations, app development, programs, strategic initiatives, et cetera. So very happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Philip Levine. I'm the president and owner of South Florida Web Advisors. The company is me, myself, and I, although if you look at my website, my 8-year-old is listed as my technical support person. I've been doing web development since 1997, been in South Florida since 2003. I'm on the boards of a couple of, been on a few synagogues and a couple nonprofits that I'm involved with, and I just love getting involved in the local community and helping out.
Welcome.
Welcome. Okay, so you want to wheel around from the corner left to Kathy, and then we'll go this way.
Sure. Patricia Morales. I'm from the Office of General Counsel.
Thank you.
I'm Radcliffe Brown. I'm a TAC member. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Finance for the Clerk and Comptroller's Office.
Ray Usler, I'm the IT Director of Security here at the district.
Dawn Pumphrey, I'm Director of IT Enterprise Applications here at the district.
Hello, everyone. Natasha Bell Hayden, Technical Operations Director.
Hey, good morning. I'm Dwayne Piper. I'm the chair of the TAC committee, and I represent Ms. Andrews on the board.
What do you do?
So in my other life, I'm the CIO at the South Florida Water Management District.
And I'm Deepak Agarwal, CIO for Palm Beach County School District.
Michael Fowler, FPL, and co-chair, I think, still.
Yes.
It's been a while.
And Gary Weidenhammer. I represent, I'm TAC from Barbara McQuinn, former Director of Educational Technology here at the school district.
Adam Miller, Assistant Superintendent for Performance Accountability for the school district. former ed tech director as well for the school district.
Okay, thank you.
Great, so it's a great team, and welcome again. I think you're up again, Deepak, to introduce a new director.
Yeah, I'm really excited to introduce Michael Callahan, our new director for PMO. Michael earlier worked under Natasha, who was the director of PMO, and she's taken over since for Chris Prasad, director of technical operations, who moved on to be a CIO for Rivera Beach. So basically, I would say, Michael, you want to talk about it, what your responsibilities are? You're only 2-3 weeks old now here, so.
Great, thanks Deepak, and thanks everybody. Excited about doing my first one here, and then in the future. So at the IT PMO, we basically provide project management, oversight, and capabilities primarily for technology projects and a lot in IT, but also across the district. So we work with transportation, school police, facility services, multicultural ESE. So basically, if it's a big enterprise-wide project and it has high impact and it involves technology, then we try to get involved if we have the bandwidth. So again, we're really excited about the new role and excited about what's coming down the road. So thanks.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, welcome. And as we move into the next section for virtual meetings, we didn't introduce the folks that are on the virtual meeting. So anyone else that's there, if you wanted to briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, this is Michael Carr. I am Director of ERP. For those not familiar with that term, that is the HR, payroll, financial, and learning systems at the district. I represent the functional side or the business side. We capture all the requirements and work with Deepak's teams to build those out. And we work with Mike Callahan a lot when we start integrating with other systems or adopt new technology at the district.
Thank you. Anyone else online? And so also, we do have a small audience, but we have some new faces. Is it possible to briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Darcy Garbisi. I'm the Director of Purchasing.
Thank you.
I'm Leanne Evans. I'm the Treasurer for the school district.
I'm John Levinson from Rail Enterprises. I represent a number of clients here at the district, including Ohana Solutions, who provides a variety of educational technology products.
Dave Atwell, I'm the Director of Educational Technology.
Thank you, appreciate that. So on the subject of virtual meetings, we see we're, as a TAC, allowed to have them. But Deepak, did you have anything further?
No, I believe everybody got communication on virtual meetings. I think it's very recent. We are allowing now, based on initially government orders, did not allow that, but I believe our council worked on it basically with the state, and we are allowed to participate virtually for these meetings. So I just want to mention that to you guys.
All right, so the next item is 3.04, School Board Policy 1.096 for the Technology Committee. And turn it over to Natasha.
Hello, good morning, everyone, again. So I've been asked to kind of go over the board policy specifically for the new members, so welcome, and we appreciate your time that you spend to come and be part of this committee. I'm going to talk a little bit about policy 1.09 as well as the specific 1.096, which is specific for our TAC committee. And then I'm going to have a little brief update on the security pieces, and it's just really as a refresher.
Yeah, that's it.
Sorry. Yes, that's fine. Thank you, sir. So as being part of the TAC, members receive a copy of this policy. It is very long, so that's why I've kind of asked just to kind of give a high level for the new members. You should have received this policy 1.09, the TAC policy, and the lobbyist policy as well. 109, of course, requires that members review the Sunshine training memo, watch the Ethics Committee video that's available on the Ethics website. There's also a conflict of interest form 4A, which I know is important to make sure that you have access to that. And then 1.09, 5N, and 5H provides guidance on any conflict of interest or abstaining from voting on items or speaking on issues or topics that are of conflict. So policy, the umbrella policy for the TAC committee is under 1.09, and that policy really just gives us guidelines and standards for advisory committees, specifically for the board. And of course, this committee is to advise the board on specific issues pertaining to our schools. My glasses are getting foggy. Advisory committees are, of course, allow any interested community members to become part of our educational and operating processes, which is really important. This advisory committee, just like all the others, is subject to the guidelines and the procedures for all committee meetings, such as the Roberts Rules of Order, the meeting organization. Must have a quorum, and of course, public records requests, et cetera. Advisories on this board, we meet, of course, quarterly. I know last year with the pandemic, we kind of weren't able to meet as often as we could, and there were some exceptions for that. But on a general basis, we do try to meet on a quarterly basis, and as Deepak mentioned, we could possibly look at some virtual options anytime soon. And then, of course, this meeting, as others, is subject to Florida Government Sunshine Law. So the purpose of this specific TAC committee advisory, which was adopted back in 2008, updated in 2011, was because the board recognizes that the technology is a major component of operations and the instructions to our students. So to assist the board in developing and analyzing our infrastructure, our technology infrastructure, this committee was put together, and of course, is an advisory to the board, as I mentioned. Some of this I'm going to kind of go through because you guys have the policy, but I'm just trying to highlight some of the biggest parts of it. In this section of advisory authority and key responsibility, the committee will operate in accordance to state and federal regulations as well as board policies. There's a lot of board policies on there, so just want to bring that to your attention. Also, so what does the committee provide advice on? Things, like, as I mentioned, mostly technical infrastructure, best practices, any emerging technologies. Those are the key things that we try to present here at these meetings. Our annual tech plan, the current one is about to expire, so we're going to be embarking on a new one under the PMO, so we'll be presenting that in this meeting, as well as the 5-year capital plan as part of the policy here, and any infrastructure technology elements. And then the important part on that last bulletin is any technology matters that are of importance to the board or the superintendent, we try to present here as well. This other part of the policy is important about what we don't advise on as part of this committee, is that we don't get involved with advice concerning selection, administration, evaluation of instructional programs, as well as we're not involved with any vendor or staff selections. This one is pretty obvious that we try to maintain 7 members in this TAC committee, and of course you all serve in a voluntary capacity, and again, we thank you for that. And again, this one mentions that we operate under the Roberts Rule of Order, and that there's a charter that's in place here, and that can be repealed or amended by the board at any time or changed. And then this last slide is really about the security exemption. I know sometimes there'll be questions, sometimes there's questions even at the board level about IT security, and there is a provision in the policy for that to be exempt. So we won't cover anything related to IT security in this public area, and even related to security documents, that's also exempted. And that's it. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to note Mr. Chris Bonafonte logged in as well, and he's part of the TAC, so welcome, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is Payment Works, and we'll invite Ms. Leanne Evans up to present. Are you going to drive the slides, or is she going to come here?
Take the clicker, and that way you don't have to move. Okay, I'll bring it back to you.
Hold on a second again.
Yeah, there it goes. There we go. Okay.
Is that you?
Works. Okay.
Thank you.
Say good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for having me at the meeting today. My name is Leanne Evans. I'm the treasurer of the school district, and Darcy Garbesy, the director of purchasing, is here with me. We're talking about a supplier portal today, and this is a new initiative that was approved by the superintendent as part of the budget process. It's being managed by the entire finance division, so it's a team effort. We're all working on it together, and that includes my office and treasury, purchasing, accounting, the ERP team, Michael Carr, who's on the meeting, he's involved. We tried to bring the whole team into this. So we started off, and this is just a little background, and this is my part. We wanted to start paying suppliers via ACH. We've been wanting to do that for ages. We've got approval for it. It really means quicker payments to suppliers. It reduces check fraud, reduces cost of printing, but we have some major concerns on how to prevent payment fraud. And I've met not only with my counterparts throughout the state and other treasurers throughout the nation, talking with our external auditors, the Auditor General. Everyone has the same concern right now about how to manage that payment risk, and we haven't been able to find a good process that would allow us to be sure that when we're sending ACH, it's going to the right people, it's getting to the right bank account. When people change their bank account, it's the valid bank account. So we were doing a lot of research trying to find somebody, and I heard about a company called Early Warning, which is a conglomeration from the 10 largest banks in the country that are partnering together to be able to validate banking information. So I was trying to reach out to them, calling them, they weren't returning my call. Turned out they only work with the 10 largest banks, that's why they didn't return my call. So I was doing a lot of work, and in the meantime, I was talking to Darcy, and she was doing some research on some other items, and she found something. But I want Darcy to talk about what they were working on.
So good morning, everyone. And for a period of time, you know, from a customer service standpoint for our suppliers, we have great information as it relates to purchase orders and scanning invoices into AP, but we really hadn't not provided a solution for our awarded suppliers in that they actually would have a portal that they could go into at any time, their convenience, and be able to look at their history, not only of their POs, but of their payment process. When was their last check cut? When can they expect their next check? So we wanted to give awarded suppliers an opportunity to be able to have that payment process available to them at 24/7. We started this project internally with our ERP team, and when we came upon PaymentWorks, we found that, while we were heading in the same direction, basically, we didn't have to build it, it was already built. And the caveats that came along with PaymentWorks really facilitated assisting all of us in the finance department.
Okay, so the next slide just talks about payments fraud and all the challenges that we face and some of the issues that are out there. Let's see. If we can. It's okay.
Just don't put it in presentation mode. Yeah, this is good. It's fine.
Is it gonna go?
Yeah, the clicker's not working.
Enable
There
edit.
it is. Okay, so this is, I'm not going to spend much time on this. I think everyone in the technology industry knows about the problems with payment fraud. And it's not just the check processing. It's also the whole process of compliance, monitoring tax compliance, making sure you have the right tax ID number, the addresses are correct. It's all this data. That's a huge industry issue. The PaymentWorks is the solution that we found.
So basically, once a supplier is awarded a contract with the district, the initial setup of that supplier documents are exchanged with the supplier. And right now, that's all a manual process. We have a series of documents, and we email it to the supplier, and we hope we get it all back, and there may be some phone calls back and forth. But this really moves the process more from a paper process to electronic process, with notifications, and when it comes back in and the vendor has been set up and checked beyond SunBiz and verified, then a notification comes back to the supplier. So, we have all the fail-safes. I think purchasing you'll see as the gatekeeper, so to speak, of establishing, the good protocol with setting up vendors and also ensuring that they've been vetted appropriately.
So the way this works, and this is the cash portion that I'm so excited about. When we have a new vendor, and we will gradually roll this out to all vendors, we're going to spread it out. We can't do it all at once. It's just way too much volume. But we'll start with the people that we're already paying with ACH, and there's a handful of those. They will get an invitation to join the PaymentWorks network, and the payee will input their information, including their bank account information, into PaymentWorks, which will be the system of record for that information. It will then come to the school district to be populated in PeopleSoft, but rather than putting the vendor's bank account information, it will be a token. So we will not be storing banking information here. We are not PCI compliant. And when we start talking about securing banking information, and Mr. Usler and I have had many conversations about cybersecurity and just the risk associated with having all that data, we will have a token. So when we create our ACH file to pay the vendors and suppliers, we'll send the ACH file, standard file, but it will have the token instead of the bank account and routing number back to PaymentWorks. They will take it and replace the bank account information and then forward it on to our bank. And then our bank will take it and then do what they always do. They'll debit our bank account and they'll credit the payee's account. One of the things that's so exciting about this is they're validating the banking information every time they make a payment, and they actually have insurance and added us on as an insured. They will guarantee ACH indemnifications up to $2 million per transaction. So up to $2 million per vendor per day is insured. So if something gets through their system inappropriate, they have an insured that's their partner that makes sure that we're covered. So this eliminates the whole concern about going for ACH. So I'm fully expecting that within a year, we will have just about every vendor being paid electronically. That's going to eliminate check fraud, a lot of risk that we have right now in our system. So we're really excited. It transfers all the risk to this third party. And this is just the go live. The initial rollout, the piece I want is all at the very beginning, so I'm really excited about that. First 7 to 11 weeks, so 3 to 4 months. We're going to we'll have the fraud protection, all the ACH validation, tax ID, bank account. They're looking for debarments. They partner with about 40 different companies to validate data. So it really is exciting to be able to have this in place. There's very little IT backup needed at this point. It's really for single sign-on, and there's very few people in the district that will have access to this. Then the next phase 2 is really integrating it with PeopleSoft so that the data will flow from PaymentWorks back to the district and clean up our vendor file to make sure all the data is correct. And that will happen really when we're ready for it to happen. But the security piece that I'm so excited about will happen right at the very beginning. So this is a big step for the district. So this is really the summary, the bank account information with fraud indemnification, being able to do ACH, and then on purchasing side,
Yeah, this is just basically talks about the vendor master, the W-9s, getting rid of the paperwork, using the PaymentWorks validation process to address all the tax ID addresses and what have you, proper remit addresses.
It includes the self-service portal that we were going to build through PeopleSoft, and this already exists. So the vendors will be able to see they'll be able to make the changes to their record and then have it validated, be able to monitor their payments to see what purchase orders have been issued, if their invoice has been processed. It adds a lot of transparency to the whole payment process. I think our vendors are really going to appreciate this, being able to see behind the curtain, so to speak, to see this whole payment process. And that's really it. We just wanted to bring this to the committee, make sure you were aware of this. This is a huge step, I think, for the finance team and making things easier for our vendors. So, are there any questions?
Tell her that I will be contacting.
No discussion? So I just want to say I think it's great, and to hear you talk about PCI compliance and tokens and security just made me smile inside. And so I think that's wonderful. I appreciate you coming here.
Anytime. And Mr. Usler and I have these conversations all the time. I'm pretty paranoid when it comes to cybersecurity. In my office, we handle all the wire transfers, the payments, the bank accounts information. And we've got a lot of bank accounts. So we have a finance committee that we've talked to regularly. But Ray and I talk frequently. I'm pretty paranoid about cybersecurity. Anything we can do to make sure the district's resources are safer, I'm right there. I volunteer to beta test anything he can give me at this point.
All right.
I just had one quick question. So you mentioned going live initially, that I guess the part that houses the payment information, addresses and everything else is going to be in this new system.
Right.
At that time, will the vendors also see their payment information? And if so, how does that information get from PeopleSoft to that system?
We're going to be sending all the payment files. Back on this slide, we're sending the payment files to PaymentWorks. It's going to PaymentWorks so they can replace the token with a bank account and go to the bank. That's populating that payment system.
Okay,
So
got
they'll
it.
be able to see it. So they'll be able to see the payments right away. Part of the integration will later on, we'll let them see their purchase orders and that we've received their invoices. So the vendors won't have everything up front. They'll be able to update their records to make sure their data is correct, and they'll be able to see payments right away. They won't see when the purchase orders are set up until we get that integration in place. And we really do want to move as quickly as we can with this. I mean, the focus, that first part, they've said 7 to 11 weeks, so 3 months. We'll have that part done. And what they recommend is that you wait for a few months and use it that way before you build the integration in, just in case we want to change anything in the platform. So it gives us some time to customize that a little bit. And it's real, what we've heard from the vendor, it's up to us when we want to turn the automation on. And Michael Carr's team will be involved in that process. They've been involved in the meetings all along, make sure everybody's up to speed with this. But it's
Thank you.
exciting.
I just
Thank
have one
you.
quick question. As a part of your research, did you benchmark what other entities within Palm Beach County are doing for ACH, or is the school district really leading the way in this?
I've talked to many people within the county. Everybody's doing it manually. There is no audit. This is the first time I've seen an automated solution that will handle this. They have processes from having a vendor fill out a piece of paper and then they call to verify it. I've tried calling, we get requests to do wire transfers. It's very rare, but when we do a wire transfer, trying to validate that information is calling a bank, and most banks at this point will not answer your question. They will not verify a bank account anymore. So it's really been a struggle when we're making a wire. It's generally associated with buying land, because everything else is repetitive wires. We've vetted them well. But when it's a new one time, it's a challenge to try to validate to make sure that information is correct. And nobody has a really good solution, from my counterparts throughout the county to talking to the state auditor general. McGladrey is our auditors. I've met with them. They had not heard of, they heard of payment. When I talked about early warning, they all started researching, because everybody's intrigued by the idea of the banks building a database where you can validate banking information. So I've talked to a lot of people that when they found out about it, they were really excited, and they're all saying, okay, Leanne, what are you going to do? How are you going to make this work? So a lot of people are waiting to see how this works. I had a conversation with somebody at the clerk's office recently and shared this information. I shared it with our inspector general, and she was sharing it with the Division of Financial Services in Tallahassee. So right now, this product is being used primarily with universities throughout the country. And I imagine that there'll be some competition for them eventually, but right now, this is the only one we found that does anything like this.
Thank you. Any further questions?
No, there's just one, GIACT. I don't know, that's one we're kind of looking at something similar. I'm glad you have this
They
here.
actually partner with GIATC.
Okay.
That is their backup office. I was looking for early warning, and we finally did have a conversation with them, and they said they really only work with banks.
Okay.
So GIATC is actually the partner that's involved with this, along with a lot of other companies where they're validating data.
It looks like you all are leading the way.
I can tell you, the $2 million per vendor per day is what got me really excited, that validation. So that's when accounting comes in. They're working very hard to build a query. They're going to be looking at every ACH file that goes out to see if there's any payment over $2 million. Typically, that's going to happen with a construction company that's building more than one school. So we'll just break their payments up. We'll pay one invoice one day and one the next. So we're going to try to make sure we're taking advantage of that indemnification.
So really, the liability now moves from the school board to these guys.
Yeah.
So I share this cyber paranoia you have. And so it's not really a question, it's more of just a statement, because I didn't see it in the slides, just the full use of encryption on the data. I love the token concept, but I think over and above that, any data either at rest or transmitting, just be comfortable with how they're securing that data that's in motion.
Yeah, we work with the IT team when we're transmitting data, and we've got keys and tokens associated with any ACH file and positive pay file that are going out to the bank. And the bank requires that encryption, that data. So everything we're sending out is being sent out in compliance with all the banking regulations.
Wonderful. Anything further? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
So the next part will be another exciting topic, the technology conference. We'll invite Mr. Atwell forward, Director of Educational Technology.
Hi, everybody. Had the privilege of talking to you about the technology conference last time we met, and just it's coming. So wanted to bring it before you again today to answer any questions you guys might have. It is on the 15th of October, and it is a virtual conference. So it will not be in person. We made that decision quite a long way ago. Just thinking we know we will be able to pull off a virtual conference no matter what happens with COVID. We have some team members that do a very good job kind of sifting through their Twitter feeds and following things, looking at variants, and kind of we had the whiff of this quite a while back, so we really started putting things into place to make sure that we would still be able to have the conference and it would be successful. So that's why it's virtual. It's done through a platform called vFairs, which is literally, it looks like a virtual conference building. You walk into the auditorium, there's places to sit, there's groups that you can jump into, there's advertising banners, there's a hall where a vendor hall where you can go and you can sit down and talk with vendors and look at their wares and all that kind of stuff. It's all just the virtual version of what you really get when you go to Orange County and you walk through. So that's what we have set up. We have a great set of speakers coming this year, some internal people as well as external renowned speakers in the educational technology field. And we have a good number of vendors who have signed up to doing gold and platinum and so on to help us fund the event, and it's going well so far. So look forward to, you guys are welcome to participate. One of the cool things, because it's virtual this year, it's not actually limited to participants only in Palm Beach County or the local, anyone who's willing to drive from other counties and so on. It's an international conference. Anyone, anywhere can really join. We're opening it up like that. So it does change the flavor a little bit, but we're excited about that. Any questions, any thoughts?
And I apologize since I'm new and I didn't see your last presentation, but who is the target audience for the conference and what is its objective?
The target audience is the teachers, and it's to help them integrate technology into their classrooms to impact student performance.
Yeah, I've been in the past, and it's been a great conference. So I'm going to try the virtual one.
Thank you.
But I look forward to the next one in person when we can.
Yeah, we have a long tradition of doing these conferences, and they've been very successful, so it's great to carry that on. It is a little different this year, but we like to keep the train going down the tracks.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. The next item is 3.07 on bus Wi-Fi. Is
David is out, actually.
Okay.
So it's going to be Michael Callahan.
So Mr. Callahan, I believe you're going to present this for us. Thank you.
Yes, sir, that's me. Thank you. And good morning again, everybody. I'm going to give a minute for the presentation to load here, unless you want me to present it.
I think we're ready. It's
Great.
coming through.
Okay, so Wi-Fi on the school buses for the student use really has been a project that the district has wanted to execute on for a number of years. We were looking at it really seriously prior to the pandemic, had funds allocated, and we're looking to move forward. Obviously, when the pandemic hit and buses stopped rolling, it kind of got sidelined. But we did do a pilot last summer with 50 buses that was paid through district funds. And this year, as funds became available through ECF, we saw an opportunity to roll it out throughout the whole district. So what we're really trying to accomplish here is to help bridge that digital divide to give folks, especially underserved areas and students, access to high-speed broadband access. As we got to one-to-one devices in the district, then obviously there's an opportunity there for students to bring their devices with them and use them on the bus to check assignments, turn in homework, check grades. We haven't used the rolling hotspots yet, but it has been discussed where we could theoretically put buses out for special events or in areas of need to actually provide a rolling hotspot to underserved areas where folks could come and use it with their one-to-one or personal devices. Transportation was also interested in it because studies have shown that there's improved student behavior and less incidents on the bus when kids have access to technology. And then even though it's not in the scope of this project as we're rolling it out, the scope really is to bridge that digital divide and homework gap. This will provide an infrastructure that we can leverage for additional student and driver safety, leveraging the ease of pulling video off the bus for incidents and other possible safety and security initiatives down the road. So next slide, please. Okay, for our pre-project evaluation, the primary stakeholders have been IT, transportation, our vendors, of course, in purchasing, helping us navigate the acquisition process. So we defined the scope of work. We completed the 50-bus pilot program last summer and wanted to make sure that the solution really provided a real value for the investment required, because it's not insignificant. And then looking to grants or other possibilities that we could leverage in order to minimize the district outlay. Next slide, please. All right, so and this is where the ECF comes in. So the ECF is a little over $7 billion that Congress put as part of the American Rescue Plan. And it's designed to aid schools and libraries to close the homework gap and to help serve underserved areas that don't always have access to broadband and high-speed internet. So the ECF will fund this. The hardware installation completely covered, as are the data costs for the first year through June 30th of 2022. So completely paid for through June 30th of 2022. We have our application in. We're expecting to hear something back by the end of September, and we'll be looking to execute once we get that approval. So next slide, please. All right, so ongoing. So this is past June 30th, 2022, when we have to look at possibly paying for this out of district monies or engaging additional funding via grants. There's also there's a possibility that they could decide to continue ECF funding past June 30th of 2022. It's just that decision hasn't been made yet, so we're not counting on that. So using a pooled plan with the SIPA filtering, and the SIPA filtering is important because we're not routing any of this data back through our network. So having that SIPA compliant filtering on there was a must-have. And looking at the cost difference, we're starting out with the unlimited plan to gauge what the use is going to be, because we don't want a big surprise bill, and we're going to get metrics over the time, probably 6 or 7 months that they're all installed, And if it makes sense to move to a pooled plan and we feel like there's cost savings there, we absolutely will make that recommendation. All right, so the year one cost. So it's 1.8 million through June 30th of 2022. And that is for the routers, installation, and data on 800 additional buses across the district, which basically includes the entire bus fleet. So that's activity buses, it's spares, it's really every bus that we have. So prior to the pilot, we've done the business case. We did our TCC committee review and got approval for that. And we're presenting this to the TAC committee, to you all, as informational only. So thanks for your attention and your feedback. On the implementation side, it's going to be 800 additional buses. The vendor, there's no constraint on the availability of the products or people to help install, so they're ready to go as soon as the funding comes through. And the vendor has also provided us a dashboard tool where we can actually deactivate some or in possibly most of the buses during periods of inactivity, like during the summer when a lot of buses aren't running, so that we can save the data costs for those buses during that period of not being used. Support is going to be a combination of transportation resources, the IT infrastructure staff, and the vendor. So our next steps. Again, we're expecting the funding approval by the end of September. We have a project manager assigned, Angie Burke. She's one of my senior PMs, and she worked on the pilot as well. We're already starting with the preliminary scheduling of the bus availability and resources, a lot of logistics involved in making sure the buses are available to get this installed on them. And the vendors, again, are ready as soon as our application is approved. The SIPA compliant filtering is included. I don't want to overemphasize that too much, but that's especially important for BYOD devices on our district supplied devices, our one-to-one devices. With the Lightspeed filter, the filtering follows the device. So that device will be filtered no matter where they're connected to. But if students are connecting on BYOD on these bus Wi-Fi, we will make sure that the proper SIPA filtering is in place to keep them away from the bad spots. We also have usage monitoring and reporting tools in place, and we'll be looking at those again and making sure that we're getting good usage, that we're able to gauge what's going to be the best plan going forward as far as data, whether it's a pooled plan or the unlimited. And unfortunately, it's not a pick and choose. It's either they're all pooled or they're all unlimited. So it's really kind of a pretty tight needle that we have to thread there. So next slide.
I think that's the last one.
I think that's it. So questions?
So I had a question, Mr. White. So my question, I was just curious, is there a metric for average time in the seat for a child's ride? And not that it matters, but I thought, that's a good place for the helping with the digital divide if that's one of the students' only ways to get connected.
Yeah, and no, thanks for the question. It's a really great one, and we are looking to possibly get something like that from our friends in transportation. Since they're tracking the route so closely. As you all know, we're a very large county geographically, and we have a lot of students that have really long bus rides, especially when you talk about some of the some of the choice programs. And folks that are, living in the western or scattered areas. So I'll take a note on that and definitely make sure that we follow up with transportation. Thanks.
Thank you. Gary?
I presume that this is probably not including school-based activity buses?
It is including school-based activity buses.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically every bus in the fleet.
Excellent.
I had two questions. One was, I know you mentioned that the ECF funding approval is expected, but what is the contingency if that doesn't come through?
Well, we actually do have dollars in our budget now under IT infrastructure for bus Wi-Fi. I think it's about 1.1 million, so it's not that full. It's not that full amount. So we'd probably have to kind of look at the scope. Obviously, if the ECF funding comes through, we would rather be able to use that money for something else.
Gotcha. And then the second question was, if the main purpose of this, by the way, I think this is a fantastic project. If the main purpose of this is to help close the digital divide and help children get access to do their homework, have you put in any plans in place for proxy filtering for things like that YouTube, social media that will easily eat up data but might not have any direct correlation to schoolwork?
Right, and so that's a little bit of a thorny issue for us, but we are looking at it. There are certainly things that are going to be blocked, you know, like Snapchat, you know, WhatsApp, some other ones. So my feedback from the schools have been that in some cases YouTube is a legitimate educational use. So we tend to get a significant amount of pushback, I think, when we try to limit something that's so kind of broad-based and can be used for different experiences. But that's definitely on our radar to you know, to make sure that whatever we're providing them has a primary basis in educational use.
I can follow up on that. So right now we have a product called Lightspeed Systems, which we have on every Chromebook a student takes, and Ray can expand if you know, correct me on that. So we do have district filtering applied basically already. So when they go home, there's a localized filter on there, which if they connect to their Wi-Fi, Ray and his team kind of like control the whole filtering piece on there. So Ray, you want to talk a little bit on that?
Yeah, so the premise, so a student device like a Chromebook, as Deepak mentioned, our product follows that device. So wherever that device goes. What could happen is, so the student connects with a personal device, and that's where we're doing filtering on personal devices through the vendor, not through us. So so we don't want to double filter, so to speak, but where there isn't where it's a personal device or a non-district device, we do SIPA compliant filtering as well, through the vendor, not through us. But for the students, primarily, they got their Chromebook, they're going to flip it up. Our web content filter follows the device.
So there's no restriction on the ability for a personal device to connect, and then once it does connect, there's SIPA filtering, but not necessarily additional site-based filtering. Like, so it's for content, as I understand, with
Yeah,
SIPA,
it's
as
still
opposed to-
content,
yeah.
and we're trying to mirror what we do at the
Yeah.
district here. Yeah, and
Makes
you know,
sense.
it's hard, yeah. Because, and even with YouTube filtering, it could be different in an elementary than in a high school. So there are differences there as well, but we do try, believe me, I block everything as much as I can. Something will always go through, but we always prefer to block it and ask somebody to go through ed tech and say, this is an educational need, so unblock it. And that's the way we try to drive this.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Anything further?
So just
To follow?
a quick question on the pilot experience from a supportability and stability perspective. Was it good?
Yeah, it's actually it's been pretty much rock solid. So we've had, you know, very I'm not sure that we've had any routers that have gone down or need to be replaced or rebooted or anything. So it's been rock solid. Obviously, you scale that from 50 to 850. You know, you might expect a little more, but that's why we're trying to make sure that we have the right tools and the right folks to be able to support those issues as they come up.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And the final item, 3.08, student and teacher device update. Natasha, please.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit about two major projects that are in the IT technical operations area, which is the student and the teacher device deployments. Our last TAC meeting, and just kind of a refresher for the new folks, we talked a little bit about the one-to-one project that was funded last year. And in that project, just to kind of give you a recap, the board and leadership approved funding to provide an additional 80,000 Chromebooks and about 14,000 Windows laptops to those students that are enrolled in career and technical education courses. So there's a lot of devices last year that was deployed. And then those devices were provided to schools based on their school enrollment. So we've kind of now, as I mentioned last time, navigated into device management, where we're looking at break fixes and swaps and making sure those devices that were provided out to the students continue to function. So my team works a lot with just the repairs and just trying to keep up with that kind of piece when it comes to one-to-one. One thing we were funded for this year was the Chromebook Refresh. That's a major project that we're working on. We have about almost 60,000 Dell Chromebooks that are end of life next summer. So we were able to get funding approved to start rolling that out a little bit earlier. So this summer we were able to give out about half of that to 142 schools. And those schools that received those 30,000 devices were able to retain the 3189s, and they can keep them for the year. So again, the break fix has just been coming at us really strong. So a lot of times students will damage devices, so we have to have another device for them to have a swap and to use. So having those extra devices on there for the year, I think, has helped the schools a lot. And then next year, we'll be having the schools e-waste the 3189s, and then in the spring, we'll hope to, barring any global shortages of chips and parts, because that was something that was big last year, we're hoping we can put the order in for the next half and get those, the other half rolled out to schools. So that's going to be big. Another large project, which I touched on at the last TAC meeting, that again, I'll just give a high level, is the teacher device. So if you can recall, we sent out a survey, and it was at the leadership level about replacing we're going to start with elementary and middle school teachers. They have desktops currently in their classroom. Those are almost at end of life. A lot of them are breaking down and slowly becoming obsolete. And so we had to make a kind of decision, especially based on the pandemic and how that kind of moved us into a remote teaching environment. Did we want to replace those desktops with laptops? So leadership made a decision, along with some survey results that we surveyed the teachers, where it came back favorable, that a laptop docking station kind of setup configuration in the classroom was approved. So we've moved forward with that. We're currently in the planning stages of that, and we'll be providing each teacher with a pretty business level Dell laptop. It's going to be a whole docking station, a laptop. We have to have some dongles in place to support the instruction and some of the enhancements, AV enhancements in the classroom, and we're going to be removing the desktops out of the classroom. So each classroom will receive a docking station, and each teacher in a CTA bargaining unit in elementary and middle will receive a Dell laptop. So also those orders have been placed. The vendor has, as they're starting to roll in, the vendor is imaging them, etching them, and they'll be responsible for delivering them to the schools. We'll be contacting the principals, building out that delivery schedule, and then we'll be partnering with the school techs to get them into the classroom. So there'll be us on the other end going, hey, you've got the devices. School techs are overwhelmed with one-to-one and device management there. So we have to support our schools to get those devices out to the teachers, and that whole process is, again, project related. So we're hoping to start mid-September, start off with a couple schools, build some lessons learned out of the delivery process and make sure it's smooth at some select schools, and then push them out, and we're hoping to have that done before Thanksgiving. We're partnering up with the EdTech team. They've been really helpful with the laptop, what I'm calling a laptop adoption, training, marketing. They have a website already set up. We're working on job aids for the teachers, and a great video was put together by the EdTech team to help with what we found. There were still about 40% of the teachers that were a little nervous to lose that whole desktop in their classroom. So we're trying to be ahead of that. We've got FAQs, and we're trying to make it, trying to highlight some of the benefits, of course, with having a laptop, which I think they're definitely going to see. But definitely having that training and having those job aids in place will help that as well. And this is just our EdTech team took a couple pictures, and I wanted to just kind of show what it looks like. The monitors that are already in the classroom, we'll keep those there. We have dongles in place so that they'll have the dual monitors between the laptop monitor and that monitor that they already have in their room. The docking station, it's a Thunderbolt dock. As you see, it's kind of small. And we'll have the dongles in place so they can hook up to the projectors and stuff like that. And another big piece is the etching. We contacted our asset management team and want to make sure it's not too of an attractive device. So we make sure we have that etch on there in a kind of classy way. Because one of the things I heard was a lot of our teachers are going to take advantage of taking it home, put it in the front seat of their car, and they're driving. It's a new kind of idea. So we want to make sure we have some etching in there. That was blessed by the IT security team. So just wanted to show it. Any questions on our projects? Yes, sir.
So since each teacher has one, as a floating teacher, it really wouldn't matter. What about substitute teachers when the regular teacher's out?
Good question. So each classroom has a smart panel. And there's two things. There's a smart panel that they can definitely engage. And then the second part is we did put a 1 to 2% extra devices per school to offset that. Whether it's a broken device, substitute, we will have some extras at the schools to assist with that.
Mr. Atwell?
It was kind of a fun discussion, striking a balance on the etching, because you want to make it ugly enough so they don't steal it, but attractive enough to show respect to the teachers.
Yeah.
So it was kind of striking.
It was like top or bottom.
We could have made it a lot uglier.
Correct, yeah.
Natasha, kind of on that point though about leaving it in the front seat of the car, maybe some basic training for teachers on asset device security, right? Put it in the trunk, those types of things will help go a long way to preventing theft.
Very good point. Yeah, we can have that on our job aid because what we're hoping to do is have something slip with that when we divide it. That's a great point.
I get a question on the one-to-one with the students, especially as equipment becomes obsolete, but I think more so as some of the students phase out of the district that they graduate, but that this now is their only technology that we've now given them. Is there any way that they're able to, whether purchase or somehow be able to keep that? Because in some cases, this may be the only technology that they have access to and now that they could continue with.
Yeah, that's a good point. Currently, no. Currently, the device belongs to the school. It's part of the school's inventory. Even from like an audit perspective, it belongs to the school. So we have policies in place, but nothing for them to purchase the device. Even at the e-waste perspective, I don't even know if they were going to be able to purchase any. I don't know, if you're aware if they were able to buy old devices or anything like that.
In the past, we've, donated the old devices that we put Neverware on or something like that to turn them into a Chrome-based if they're a Windows device, but not for the families to purchase, no.
No, I'm not aware of that either.
But definitely we can look into, talk to purchasing, maybe work with Dell, HP, whoever our providers are. Maybe they can provide some low-cost devices to the student at a district price.
Right, yeah.
All right. We can look into that.
Thank you. Anything further on that? Thank you for the update. So the next meeting date will be December 1st. I believe it's still a Wednesday, and about a quarter away, so look forward to seeing everyone there. If there's nothing further, do we have a motion to adjourn? In a second?
Second.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.